Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714-898-0765.
Hi, welcome to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. To us, OC stands for our community because we believe that our community is stronger when we come together. As you know, this is a bilingual English and Vietnamese program dedicated to educating, empowering, and inspiring our community. We thank you for joining us each Tuesday evening and on Wednesday morning on Little Saigon TV. Today on our show, we have Bobby McDonald to tell you a little bit about the rich experience in his life and his contributions specifically to our veterans community. Julie kính chào quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV trong chương trình kiến thức, y khoa, gia đình và xã hội. Hôm nay Julie mời được Bobby McDonald. Bobby McDonald là the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce. Hiện tại Julie muốn nói chuyện về cái Veteran Celebration trong tháng 11. Bobby, thank you so much for being here. I know you have such a rich experience in the community and your services throughout bringing so much unity and the community together, but specifically for your support for our veterans. So thank you so much for being here today.
Ms. Julie, thank you very kindly for having me. I really appreciate it. And one of the reasons why I kind of really thought about being on the show, and I'm glad you asked me, is because it's about wellness and diversity in the community.
Yes.
And what I really, really like, and I'd love your audience to know this, I learned this a long time ago. I try to use diversity as a verb, not as a noun, because everybody knows a verb is action. And that's why I'm here, because you're doing action things for the community. I'm glad to even be part of this today, so thank you.
Well, such an honor. I think we admire you so much for what you do. And, the reminder in our community, as you can see when I said OC stands for our community, diversity is really what makes our community so beautiful, that there are so many different viewpoints and different contributions, more so. But when we have those viewpoints, can we come together for a greater cause and move forward? So thank you so much for inspiring us all to come together and to serve the community. Julie hôm nay muốn giới thiệu cho quý vị Bobby McDonald. Bobby McDonald, Bobby muốn chú nhấn mạnh là cái công việc của Bobby là chú ý nhất là unity, làm sao mình làm cộng đồng của mình đồng kết về hợp tác nhau và làm việc chung. Mà cái chữ sau đó là diversity. Diversity là rất nhiều người trong cộng đồng của mình là người Tây Ban Nha, người da đen, người trắng, Việt Nam, người Tàu. I'm trying my best to figure out how we explain in our Vietnamese community that when we come together, we actually can move forward. Because I think, sometimes in our Asian community, we're so isolated in a sense that sometimes it's hard to open up. What can you do? What advice would you give for us to be more open to collaborating with the Black Chamber?
Let me go back to the original part of your statement. I believe all of our cultures, whether it's Black, Asian, Latino, whatever, all have that cultural bind-in because the family is really the center.
Yes.
And as the family unit is the center, we all pick up sometimes not so good habits because of what our parents and our grandparents went through. I say that because as a frustration for me in the Black Chamber, I get frustrated because most people don't join. They're not joiners. I make a joke out of we weren't taught to join the animal clubs like the moose, the lions, and the other group, the elks.
The elks.
Those getting the elks. We weren't taught to join. We were taught to keep in that family unit. And being a president of the Black Chamber for all these years, it's been difficult because people don't join. It's not that they don't see a value in it. It's not the norm. And it's difficult. So I was a little different than everyone because I understood the value of networking and the value of being in the community and knowing the community and being able to maneuver and help.
When you say join and you say people, are we making, we're opening the invitation to join the Black Chamber of Commerce, even especially when you're not Black. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Because the misnomer is, oh, it's Black Chamber, it's only for
Black people.
Black people.
Korean chamber is only for Korean. The Vietnamese is only for
But I know, we've seen that, I've been to a lot of these chambers, there's an array of people.
That's right. We started the Orange County President's Council a while back, about 20 some odd years ago,
Yes.
where the presidents, we had at one point in time, we had 20 different ethnic chambers and business groups, over 20. And we got together on a quarterly basis, and every year we had a calendar, so we'd know when Black History Month was,
Yes.
we'd know when Hispanic Heritage Month was, the Asian Pacific Islander Month was. The only problem I had was, I can't say Chinese New Year's anymore, so the Lunar New Year. Okay, I got chewed out for that. But the thing is, sometimes that carries over into February, latter part of February, and it goes into March. Black History Month is all of February. So those only, but we understood we would be helping each one of us, each one of our cultural chambers during that time and show up at their events and be
I
part
love
of the
what you
community.
said. You said cultural chamber.
Yeah.
Cultural. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. When you push the emphasis on diversity, you're celebrating our differences, but also the similarities of us being one happy family.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying, that you're reminding everybody that, on each of these chambers, it's like a different member of the family. But you're encouraging all of us to join. And you don't have to be in that culture, but you have to have an interest and a fascination to learn more about it. So thank you, Bobby, for helping us reframe our thinking skills.
With the Black Chamber, and this is when I took over back in the 90s, late 90s, my theme was access to information, and we're multicultural, cross-cultural, and diversified. We have all those ingredients for being in the chamber.
So again, multicultural, cross-cultural,
and diversified.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try my best to recap the message that you're trying to send to all of us. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald. Bobby McDonald làm rất nhiều việc trong cộng đồng, mà quan trọng nhất là Bobby muốn làm sao cho mình đồng kết nhau, về giúp nhau, về hợp tác nhau. Trong cái Black Chamber of Commerce, mình nghĩ là đó là cho người Black American thôi. Mà thiệt ra Bobby nói đó là cái cách suy nghĩ của Bobby là unity and diversity. Trước nhất thì là mình thấy là mỗi cái Chamber of Commerce á, là cái chú ý về cái văn hóa của mỗi người khác nhau, mà thiệt ra mình phải làm sao mình hợp tác nhau á, thì mỗi năm mình có được tổ chức rất nhiều chương trình mà mình cứ giúp nhau về tới tham dự mỗi cái chương trình khác. Mà Bobby nói đó là tại cái hỏi của Bobby là Black Chamber of Commerce, nhiều người không có muốn tham dự, họ không có muốn ghi danh, là tại mình nghĩ là đâu phải là mình người da đen thì tại sao mình vô cái Black Chamber of Commerce. Thì mình cũng thấy đó là trong Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, lúc mà mình chưa đi tới tham dự đâu phải là người Việt Nam không, mà mỗi người làm việc trong cộng đồng Việt Nam của mình, hợp tác với người Việt Nam của mình sẽ nên liên lạc, sẽ nên tổ chức nhau. Thì Julie thấy là rất là quan trọng. Hôm nay là Julie muốn giới thiệu cho quý vị với Bobby là trước nhất là muốn hiểu thêm về cái Black Chamber of Commerce, mà sau đó cũng muốn hiểu thêm về cái công việc của Bobby trong cộng đồng Việt Nam. Về đặc biệt là hồi xưa là Bobby là một người cựu quân nhân là cho cái Vietnam War. Thì Julie rất là hân hạnh được có Bobby tới trên đài của Liêu Sài Gòn TV hôm nay. I was just trying to recap the essence of what you're trying to say, and that is really, for people not to just even prejudge the word Black Chamber of Commerce. And a lot of times that prejudgment is what really divides us. But I love the message you're sending today, that we're one big happy family, and that there is so many cultures and things to celebrate. I want to ask you, if I were to consider, or when I consider joining the Black Chamber of Commerce, what is it a benefit to me as a Vietnamese American to be part of this chamber?
The value of being a member of the chamber is now because of what we have done. There's a plus to it. All right. The good news is there's a Black Chamber. The other part of that is synonymous with Bobby McDonald.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I've been involved with the chamber since 1990.
Yes.
All right. So I've been told I've been part of even helping shape Orange County.
Wow.
All right,
Well, Bobby,
so-
after the commercial break, I have so many more questions to ask about what you're doing.
Thank you.
But, I also want to make sure that when we come back to highlight the history of Black American in the Vietnam War and even how it impacted all of us to be able to come here to America and be American citizens. So thank you so much for your service to the communities, our
you.
service to the nation, and for giving us that opportunity to become Americans. Julie cảm ơn quý vị khán giả đã theo dõi chương trình Kiến thức Y khoa Gia đình và Xã hội. Sau vòng quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald để cho hiểu thêm về công việc của Bobby trong Black Chamber of Commerce mà cũng hiểu thêm về as a Vietnam veteran. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình. 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. Today we have Bobby McDonald, the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce, here on our show. And it's such a great honor for us to understand, his vision for the community, but more importantly, his service specifically that impact the Vietnamese American community. I think a lot of times, Bobby, when we talk about the history of Vietnamese immigrants coming to America, a lot of people don't understand that the civil rights movement for Black Americans paved the way for our government to approve the mass exodus of a lot of Vietnamese Americans to become Americans here in this new land. Can you share with us some of your knowledge on the history? So, because I think understanding our history can help us heal from our past. Because within the Vietnamese community, there's a lot of generational trauma. I'm very open about the trauma that impacted my own personal family, where it became, drug abuse and health issues and homelessness. And in my mother's case specifically, her generational trauma, her mental health, became physical health and premature death at 57. So I think that's one thing is that I'm so personally invested in serving the community because of the hardship that I went through and still going through within my own family unit.
Let me start with the first part
Yes.
of your question. And I'm blessed because I grew up in Watts, California. My parents were both, my mother was from the South in Louisiana, and my dad was Chicago, but all my relatives, even my dad's mom, they were all in Louisiana.
Yes.
So growing up in the South is a whole different ballgame than real America. And a lot of those cultural, personal, and community issues were all tied into how I grew up. As we said before the program started, I did grow up in Watts, but my realization of the community and growing up in a diverse and multicultural community was a benefit to me. I appreciated where I came from and a different culture, as in the Filipinos and also the Vietnamese, because I went to the Philippines. I went to Vietnam.
Yes.
And I got a chance to see how they lived. And going to a place where I thought was, wow, okay, but not okay. But when you go to unpaved roads, no electricity, you're getting your hair cut with scissors and not clippers, and then you see the other part. It really gives you an appreciation of the different culture. Now, I don't think our kids today really get that appreciation, at least from California,
Yes.
because there's so much to do. From a wellness standpoint, I'm just happy that we as a group and a community, especially here in Orange County, we don't get mad at me for saying this, but COVID really brought mental awareness
health,
and health awareness into the forefront.
Right.
It's now pushed. We all have to really get along because we here in America pretty much got everything squared away with getting the medicine and stuff. We now have something we've got to deal with other than the flu, but it brought us all together. And I guess right before the mental health piece and right before COVID, or during COVID, we had that Stop the Hate piece. Okay, I remember the Vietnamese community reached out to the Black Chamber, specifically me, it's a group, to come out and speak at some of the Stop the Hate piece. That's part of the history of the Black community standing up for the civil rights movement and sacrificing. I can't tell you what it was like to be in Vietnam, but there was no lunch counters in Vietnam. There was no lunch counters in the Philippines where blacks could not sit. Part of our history was that some of the black fraternities and sororities, and part of their initiation to get in into those groups, they had to sit at the lunch counters. So it was not only adults, but it was the youngsters and the college bound that had to be there to help move the movement. So the movement was at each one of the levels. And I think a lot of the other groups that are coming in miss that part. And that's what makes the black movement so much stronger, because that's where the lead came from.
So what you're saying is that as we look at the Black movement, it's the ability to sit with each other, to be the ability to be exposed to exposure, and that really changes. So thank you for the message and the reminder that, you know, we need to be putting ourselves in situations that we're not normally in, and making sure we get that added exposure.
Isn't that the reason why we go to school? To learn?
Yes.
Learn about something we don't know.
And I think especially when we talk about, you know, prejudice, for example, and even being grateful, sometimes because we don't take the time to learn about it, and we have the wrong or preconceived notion of what we're making up without the added exposure, the first-hand experience. So thank you for sharing with us the message of making sure that we are making sure ourselves available and to learning and to being open up about that process. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay Julie có rất nhiều câu hỏi cho Bobby McDonald. Trước nhất là Julie hỏi một cái câu là làm sao người Việt Nam của mình hiểu về cái lịch sử của người Mỹ da đen á, là làm sao giúp được người Việt Nam của mình. Trước nhất á, là cái civil rights movement. Tại Julie hỏi một cái câu thêm nữa, đó là chừng nào nó rất, you know, nhiều lúc mình không có muốn nói, mà tại người Việt Nam của mình sometimes nhiều lúc là cũng kỳ thị người Mỹ da đen, mà Bobby nói là chừng nào mình có cái kỳ thị đó là cái lý do tại trước nhất là mình chưa để dành cái thời gian để cho mình gặp họ, mình tiếp xúc với họ, mình đối xử với họ, làm sao mình hiểu được á, thì lúc đó mình không có bị cái kỳ thị thêm nữa. Thì hôm nay cái lý do tại Julie muốn hỏi mấy cái câu đây đó là Julie nói đó là mình muốn hiểu thêm làm sao cộng đồng Việt Nam của mình chấp nhận về cũng có một cái appreciation cho cái lịch sử của cái người Mỹ da đen với Black History. I was just saying that, you know, that there are so many messages that you're saying that's so important. But the first thing that I'm hearing from you is that prejudice happens when you don't take the time to learn about a culture or immerse yourself. I think that's why the Black Chamber of Commerce is so important, is that those of us who are not Black, it's more important for us to come to the chamber to learn about it, but also to have that brotherhood and sisterhood to share our culturals and our experiences and our contributions.
That's why we started the President's Council, and I'm working with Jay and Alex and them.
Tell us a little bit what the President's Council is for our audience.
Well, the President's Council was, again, as I mentioned earlier, was a group of the chambers getting together to know when the thing. We also started a little after that, a president's group with just the president, so we can still stay in effect. And then we got this new group now.
But when did you start the President's Council?
Oh, way back in the first part of 2001, 2002, somewhere around. But the whole thing is, we've watched it morph into something that's really, really beneficial now. But part of that is to understand each one of those different holidays, being involved with the group and stuff to that effect. Okay. But let me digress just a second here about the health. I mean, I touched on it briefly. I'm very, very blessed to have been appointed by the Veterans Administration back in D.C. I'm now part of the Center for Minority Veterans, the Advisory Council for Minority Veterans. And I sit on that council, and one of the things we looked at and we're working on is benefits for our veterans.
Wow.
Okay, and that's everybody. When I say minority veterans, we're talking about all veterans, but we're making sure that women veterans get their support. All the Native Americans, even the Asian Pacific Islanders, okay, we have them all. And in this group, it's all multicultural. And
so beyond what you do in the local Orange County community, You're also representing us in DC.
Yeah.
So there's so many things. I know this show is not going to be able to capture the extent of your involvement in the community and the impact of all of our viewers. I think a lot of our viewers might not know what you have done personally and even almost directly affect all of us. So after the commercial break, Bobby, I want you to hold that thought. But after the commercial break, I'll definitely want to learn more about the President Council and your representation to make sure that our veterans get the mental health care and the health care that they need. Julie rất hân hạnh được mời Bobby McDonald tới cái show của mình hôm nay. Mình hy vọng có thời gian nói chuyện về cái chuyện mà nó rất là khó nói về cái kỳ thị của mình về người Việt Nam hay người Á Châu mình với cái người Mỹ da đen. Mà thiệt ra chỉ là mình hiểu cái công việc của Bobby McDonald trong cộng đồng của mình, làm sao làm cho mình hợp tác nhau để giúp cho cộng đồng của mình, mà đặc biệt á, là giúp là mấy cụ quân nhân để cho có được nhiều cái support để cho giúp cho họ trong cái tương lai đây. Julie, cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV. Sau vòng quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald, là President của Black Chamber. Cảm ơn quý vị.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. Today we have the president of the Black Chamber, Bobby McDonald, here to talk about, his rich experience in the community, but also to send a message of unity and diversity and of celebration. He mentioned that diversity is an action word. We have to be very mindful and very deliberate in making sure that we make an effort to learn about our differences, to immerse ourselves in different culture. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald, là Bobby McDonald là President of the Black Chamber. Hôm nay Bobby muốn nhấn mạnh là nhắc nhở quý vị là lúc mà mình hợp tác nhau là đó là unity rất là quan trọng. Bobby là tạo được một cái là kêu bằng President Council. President Council là một cái cơ quan đem tới cho hợp tác nhau với mỗi cái President of cái Chamber khác. Ví dụ là Vietnamese Chamber, Filipino Chamber, Black Chamber, vân vân, có rất nhiều cái Chamber. Mà cái người mà là tổ chức là cái người President của mỗi cái cơ quan đây hợp tác nhau thì mình thấy cái sức mạnh của cái cộng đồng của mình là specifically cái minority community sẽ mạnh hơn. Trước khi phần quảng cáo, Bobby có nói đó là Bobby là một người trong cái Center for Minority Veterans đại diện cho mình ở DC, mà mình thấy đó là rất nhiều cụ quân nhân là người Việt Nam. Hôm nay Bobby muốn chia sẻ với quý vị cái việc của Bobby trong cái Vietnam War, mà thêm nữa làm sao mình hiểu thêm cái công việc của Bobby hiện tại as a President of Black Chamber. Bobby, I just want to try to recap that last segment we had in just a few minutes. But what I do want to say to you is, again, thank you for representing us in DC, because a lot of us have family members that are veterans. Mm-hmm. And that, they do struggle with mental health. They do struggle with a multitude of things, but sometimes it's hard to talk about. But as you represent our family members and our audience who are veterans, as part of the Center for Minority Veteran, what is your hope and your aspiration for our veterans?
With the Center for Minority Veterans, but I'm in that the advisory committee for minority veterans. So, but they're similar, but it's the umbrella is the Center for Minority Veterans, and then I'm the part of the advisory committee. But we all get together and we meet. And in fact, actually, the big thing right now is the PACT Act. That's the piece where we're trying to get all of those veterans that were in Vietnam or Afghanistan or Kuwait, all those different places, because of all the different entities that happen in those areas. The burn pits, Agent Orange,
right.
Whatever, those kinds of things. And we're trying to get the veterans to get off the couch and go check. Okay, go check on yourself. Check on the things that happen in these different areas. You earned it. You earned the right to get the support from the government because you fought for this country. You helped build this country. You protected this country, all right? And so we need for those veterans to go and get checked out.
You know, I think, for me, I work in the mental health space, Bobby. And what I realize is that oftentimes the biggest barrier to services is not just language and culture, but it's mental health. I think a lot of times when our mental health is not well, we might not feel that we're deserving of care. I went to a psychiatrist, and the first thing I learned in my counseling session is you deserve to be healthy. And that brought me to tears because out of 25 years of service to the community in the medical space and in the community events that we do, I never thought of myself being worthy of that care. So I know it has been a very long journey for me to get to this space in my mental health and my ability to impact the community. But I challenge you and challenge all those who work in the community that if you change your framework, that mental health is a barrier to services, then you'll be able to approach the veterans differently and maybe get more buy-in. I think the buy-in is the hardest part, Bobby. What do you think is the hardest part?
The thing is,
your
I'm in agreement with your assessment, but the thing is, I remember when I first started out, I was one of those veterans who was sitting on the couch or watch TV, playing basketball, whatever. But I didn't want to go. It wasn't for me, it was for the older veterans. And then I said, if I'm going to help a veteran, it's like the old saying, before I tell you to do something, I better have done it already.
Got it.
All right? So once I've done it, I can tell you I did it, okay? And the value. And that's why there's this PACT Act part, the mental health part. And mental health still today is a stigma. People go, oh, wow, I'm not sick. Well, why are we losing 22 veterans a day to suicide? Why are more kids going suicide? Because they weren't told, or they don't understand, or they didn't seek help. That's what we're trying to find out. That's why this is important.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
I didn't know I had Agent Orange until one day I had to go to get a checkup, and I'm going, oh my goodness.
So your two messages: take care of your physical health as well as your mental health.
Oh yeah.
And know that the services are available out there.
Most guys won't go to the doctor.
Right.
That's mental health.
Yes.
Okay. You don't know what you don't know. And that's the trouble. At least in my mindset.
Yes.
Okay. You have to be. I do it and I get involved because if I'm going to convince you to do something, I better be real clear. Of course, then again, I'm a salesman, so I've got to make sure you know the features and benefits. But that's why mental health is so important. That's why we have the Veteran Service Office here. That's why I'm involved in the local, the state with CalVet, and then also with the nation with the Veterans Administration.
Well, what aren't you part of? Well, that wherever there's veterans and need for support, I know you're there, Bobby. So thank you so much for all your services and all the committees and advisories and all the things that you manage and participate in. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald, là President of the Black Chamber. Vậy Julie có rất nhiều câu hỏi là mình muốn hiểu thêm về cái công việc của Bobby. Julie có chia sẻ đó là sức khỏe tâm thần là rất ảnh hưởng về cái sức khỏe cơ thể của mình. Tại nhiều lúc mình không có khỏe, mình nghĩ mình không có bệnh, có thể mình nghĩ là mình không có cần đi bác sĩ. Mà nhiều lúc đó là sức khỏe tâm thần là mình nghĩ là giống như Bobby nói là cái chương trình đây là cho người khác chứ không phải cho mình đâu. Bobby hồi xưa là một người cựu quân nhân để cho cái Vietnam War, mà lúc mà trở lại về nước Mỹ á, Bobby cũng chưa đi bác sĩ, thì lúc đó không có biết là bị ảnh hưởng về Agent Orange. Bobby cũng là một người rất là, mình nói là action driven, là nói đó là chừng nào Bobby nói chừng nào Bobby muốn giúp cái người khác, Bobby phải trước làm mẫu, là tự phải đi bác sĩ, phải đi check up. I was just really love the message that you said, Bobby, that, if you really want to help somebody, you really have to be a model. You got to do it first, because sometimes, we hear of all these amazing programs. But if we've never walked it and went through that journey, we don't know some of the challenges and some of the thought process that goes in your mind when you're going to these, accessing these services.
And being able to change people's minds.
Right. But I mean, to be able to first take that action to change your own mind, To be able to change someone's mind is to have that insight. So thank you for giving us that advice so we can help our own family members who are going through the struggles and maybe who are not accessing the services. So after the commercial break, we're on our last segment, and we want to make sure that we talk about all these things, Bobby, because, you know, today we're just starting the conversation about the hard things, you know, about racism, about discrimination, about access to health care, and specifically mental health. What you said, the statistic is so staggering that we have 22 suicides from our veterans each day.
That's a football team.
Wow.
That's a football team.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And you know, when I do answer the 5150 calls, I do have someone who reached out to me and who is an active member of our servicemen and women. And his friend just took his own life. And we are supporting that too. So it is a very big challenge. And thank you so much for being able to talk about it, but more importantly, making sure that you're available. Julie, cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV. Sau vòng quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald, President of the Black Chamber. Cảm ơn quý vị.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. We're going to continue the conversation with Bobby McDonald. Unfortunately, Bobby, this is the last segment. And I know we have so much more to talk about, but you know, I know that helping our veterans is very important, but the focus really is on education. So tell me, what do we need to do to educate our community so we can support our veterans and also educate our veterans on all the multitude of services that are available to them?
Let me again dive into some of the things we said in the other segments, and let me go into education and culture and knowing your culture, knowing your history.
Yes.
I come from a military family background. My dad and my 4 uncles were all Buffalo soldiers during World War II. So those are Buffalo soldiers. The Buffalo soldiers started back when the United States Army, back in 1866, decided to change after the Civil War, and the black soldiers were allowed to come in. There were 6 units, then they narrowed it down to 4 3 years later. It's the 9th, the 10th, 24th, and 25th Infantry. Stuck them out west, okay, west of the Mississippi, as the United States was growing. They were here to build the towns, marshal the towns, paint the towns, protect the settlers from the Indians, right? All those kinds of different things. And they built them, all right? So the Buffalo soldiers built this country.
Wow.
Okay, when you look at the Chinese immigrants that were here, they helped build the railroad. Okay, the Japanese that were here to help build the roads and stuff. We had all these different entities and the farming issues.
And that's why diversity is so important to you.
Well, to me, yes. Because I watched my dad and the rest of those Buffalo soldiers build this country. All right? Right after the Civil War, right there in 1860. In fact, it was the general that came in and started the Emancipation Proclamation. He took it down to Texas. I'm drawing a blank. But the general that came into Houston, he had 4,000 to 10,000 black soldiers with him coming into Texas to free the slaves. Okay, so to let Texas know they were free, and that's huge. Several months earlier, in 1866, the 62nd and 65th Colored Infantry pooled their resources and came up with $5,000. Now, they were making $13 a year, $13 a month, $156 a year. Those whole units came together and came up with $5,000. That's a lot of money now. And they pooled it, officers and men, to build Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. That's the value of education. They built a university. And that university has still been beneficial to help move the educational efforts down for all men and women in the communities.
So I think what you're mentioning is that education and understand the history and the contributions of those before us really paved the way for us to do more within the community.
It gives you a peace of mind. It gives you a peace of heart. We help build this country. We are people of color. We understand it. I belong here just like you belong here. We both learned, got education. We're both allowed to do anything we want to do within reason.
Right.
All right? We have that. Okay. I can be a sales and marketing person. I don't have to be just a laborer, which is nothing wrong with being a laborer,
Yes.
or an astronaut. You can do anything. Run the gamut.
But you know, so I think what I'm hoping that the audience will understand is that when we take the time to learn about the history, when you take the time to learn about the contributions of the past, you actually can heal and also move forward as a community, together as a community.
Yeah.
I think, you know, a lot of times when I work in the mental health space, many times we talk about generational trauma because we're afraid for that education. We're afraid to learn about the past. We're afraid to open up those wounds, you know, with our elders who hold the history and the education. So I think I'm happy that you are here with us. I'm happy that you are part of this long lineage of service to our nation. And I really love what you said that, you know, we mean the diverse community, that we are the diverse built community, serve this country, but also build this country. Because I know during the commercial break, you were actually even educating me about when desegregation was in the military. So there's so much I'm learning, Bobby. So I'd love to have you back soon, but let me try to recap what we're just sharing with the community today. Julie muốn hỏi một cái câu quan trọng nhất là lúc mà bây giờ Bobby làm rất nhiều việc trong cộng đồng của mình, cái gì là quan trọng nhất là Bobby nói là education. Education là mình phải học hiểu thêm. Bobby là một trong gia đình, là một cái lineage là, you know, bác, đồ cậu, chú gia đình, là trong cái military, là nhiều cái người là cựu cơ quan để giúp cho nước Mỹ. Bobby muốn nhấn mạnh là diversity. Lúc mà education là mình học hiểu rồi mình mới thấy đó là mỗi người mà không phải là người Mỹ da trắng không, mà mỗi người khác, người Mỹ da đen, về người Tàu, người Nhật, về cái lịch sử mình hiểu hết á, là mình thấy đó là trước nhất là họ giúp tạo được cho cái nước Mỹ được thành công như ngày hôm nay, là mình, là chúng ta, là cái diversity, là đã có nhiều cái lịch sử để giúp cho cộng đồng. Tại sao quan trọng cho cộng đồng Việt Nam của mình, về tại sao quan trọng cho sức khỏe tâm thần, là tại lúc mà Julie làm việc trong sức khỏe tâm thần về cái mental health space á, mình thấy rất là nhiều lúc người Việt Nam của mình và mấy cái người lính hay mấy cái bác của mình á, không có muốn chia sẻ về cái chuyện hồi xưa. So cái hy vọng của Julie hôm nay á, là mời Bobby tới đó, là cho quý vị có một thời gian gặp Bobby, hiểu là đây là một người lính, là một người quân đội, là giúp cho người Việt Nam của mình trong cái Vietnam War, mà thiệt ra là một cái người làm rất nhiều việc trong cộng đồng về đại diện cho mình, even at Washington. Bobby, as we close out the program, what is that one message you want to deliver directly to our audience about what you're doing in the community and what are you hoping to accomplish in the years to come? But as I was mentioning, and many times on the show, April 30th, 2025, it's a very significant date in the Vietnamese American community. I know the veterans have been celebrating the 50th anniversary of the withdrawal of the militaries from Vietnam, but to us, 2025 is huge.
Yes.
So tell us what you have planned and are going to do moving forward to help our veterans and the community as a whole, our diverse community.
There's movements afoot to look at doing that celebration. I mean,
Yes.
I've already had people call and ask me about it. You asked me about it earlier today. So we're going to be involved.
Yes.
I know that you were asking about a list of veterans. Well, we had the American Legion and the VFW and the Disabled American Veterans and the Vietnam
You're
Veterans.
so connected.
Well, I can make a phone call, yeah. Yeah. But we're looking forward to planning it now, and I'm glad that you're going to allow me to help you be part of it. So thank you.
So what is your message to our
Well,
audience?
there's a couple things, if I may. You mentioned a couple things about me being a model. Well, I'm not so sure I am a model.
Not a supermodel.
No, I'm not. I don't walk around. Well, let's put it, I haven't walked on a runway in a long time, but my runway that I did walk on was in Da Nang and Marble Mountain. But you know, there's over the years, I've always been said that there's a possibility I might be an agent of change. But there's other people in the community that are agents of change, and you can be one. You can be an agent of change. I mean, when I have an Alan Wu and a Tammy Tran or an Alex Kim or a Jay Ungos, there's a whole bunch more out there I could name but Carrie Mazzara and Alice Lee and Joe Pack, they're all multicultural.
Yes.
They all call me when they need something, which I don't mind because I'm willing to help. It's our community. Orange County is Orange County, like you said, Orange County Health or Orange County Education. It's education, then business, veterans, and the community. Those are the four components or four. Anyway, you can be an agent of change. All you have to do, and just take a few minutes just to understand yourself. Okay? Because I'm number one because I'm the best at being me. So should you.
Well, thank you so much for that important message that all of us can make an impact and be an agent of change. To me, I think you're an agent of unity, that you're bringing all of us together and more importantly, mentoring the generations after to continue this legacy that you've paid so much for along the way.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for being here. Julie muốn cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV. Julie có một thời gian rất là đặc biệt nói chuyện với Bobby McDonald. Bobby McDonald là làm rất nhiều việc trong cộng đồng mà là Julie muốn nói đó là Bobby McDonald là agent of unity, một người muốn làm cho mỗi người hợp tác nhau, làm việc nhau để cho giúp về cộng đồng của mình. Thì Julie hy vọng có nhiều thời gian khác nói chuyện với Bobby về hợp tác với Bobby để cho giúp cho cộng đồng của mình trong cái 50 năm kỷ niệm của Black April. Thì Julie luôn luôn muốn cảm ơn quý vị khán giả đã ủng hộ chương trình Kiến thức y khoa gia đình và xã hội để dành thời gian để cho mình hiểu thêm về diversity and inclusion and làm sao mình giúp cho cộng đồng của mình. Julie muốn cảm ơn quý vị đã theo dõi chương trình Kiến thức y khoa gia đình và xã hội và chúc quý vị rất nhiều sức khỏe và may mắn. Cảm ơn.